Good evening, everybody, and welcome to one more session of Latin Securities LM's weekly wrap, our weekly program on the developments which have happened in the market. In this program, we try to cover all the global developments which have impacted the markets, the developments in the global markets, the global scenario, what is the expected outlook for the global markets. At the same time, all the events which are impacting our domestic markets, whether at the macro level or at the micro level. In the last few series, we have tried to cover some of the important results announcements and their impact on the respective sectors. What is expected going forward for the different sectors and the companies which are likely to be in the focus on account of these factors. With me is Mr. Jash, who is the senior investment analyst at Latin Securities. He'll be giving us a brief overview about the global markets, the overall macroeconomic context in the domestic markets, which will be followed by the micro developments, the company related developments from my side. So I hand over to Jash, who will be taking it forward from.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here with you. I'm going to cover how the week went, what happened in the global markets, and what is happening in the domestic markets, and what we see in the next week. So starting with the global markets, I think we started a very strong week with positive sentiments from the US. The result season is progressing well, but there is a fear of the Fed rate taking an aggressive stance for hiking the rates in the coming months. 3 former Federal Reserve chairmen have decided that they want to take aggressive hikes to control the inflation. So this has kept the global markets jittery, and following that, even Bank of England, they have been experiencing the highest inflation in the last 40 years at 9.7%.
In fact, Europe is going through a very difficult period because of the unsustainable energy prices.
Yes, we covered that last week, how difficult it is getting for them.
Yes.
And 10 countries have double-digit inflation.
True.
So even the Bank of England ended up hiking 50 basis points, and then the RBI, we were expecting, the market had already priced in 35 basis points hike, but it ended up doing 50 basis points as it is an aggressive stance, and yes. They are also
in fact the RBI has front loaded the repo rate hike by announcing a 50 basis points hike today, and in a way signaled that there is a withdrawal of accommodation.
Yes,
monetary accommodation has been withdrawn. And I think for this week, one of the major factors impacting the market was the Taiwan
and
tensions
China.
between
That's
China
right.
and
so I think that took shape on Wednesday.
Yes.
The markets, whatever gains that were there on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they were almost given up, and the Indian index remained up by 1.09%. I think the whole issue with the China and Taiwan is that Nancy Pelosi, who visited, she was the first speaker who visited after 25 years, and China had warned USA to not escalate these things, because they had said that they would start doing military drills, and there's a very big fear of war happening between China and Taiwan. And that would lead to further shortage of semiconductor chips. As we all know, the world is going through a supply chain and semiconductor shortage since the last 1.5 years, since COVID took place. So I think that's going to change the equation of the world for semiconductors. That's one of the biggest suppliers of conductor chips. Also, I think with this going into place and China putting sanctions and sanctions,
it's going to aggravate the overall scenario globally. It's going to aggravate the overall scenario. And as we've seen that we are in an increasingly globalized world, and we've seen that the tensions between Russia and Ukraine. We've seen
How it
there's been a
spurted the
shortage,
inflation.
how it created a food crisis across the globe, how it created an energy crisis across the globe. So if there is a shortage of semiconductors or chips shortage,
I
it could
think-
have a very severe
Yeah,
impact
I think
on
it's
the
one of
auto
the
sector.
most important elements right now,
Yes.
not only for auto sector but also for the smart gadgets that are being used in the world.
True, true.
So I think the inflationary pressure would remain if this is going to be going forward. But another point is that as we saw that China's real estate is going to go in a lull, and the demand is reducing.
Yeah.
So 1/3 of the steel production is going to
Be
impacted, and that's what would lead to drop in steel prices. And I think this sums up what happened in this week. And the next week we are going to watch out, as we have seen some profit booking today. We might see some more profit booking in the next week, but I think we should be cautious. And with this, I would hand over to Mr. Nirav.
Yeah, thanks, Jash. So I think we've seen the global scenario continues to be volatile. But luckily, as far as the Indian markets are concerned, we've had a kind of a dream run. We've had a kind of a reversal of fortunes, because we've seen a very aggressive selling by FII investors in the recent past. And statistics indicate that there was selling to the tune of $33 billion. But I think Indian markets have been pretty resilient. They've absorbed a large part of.
I think the domestic investors were.
Yeah. So I think mutual fund or SIP performance has been quite good. That's fairly well documented. This week started off with the auto sales numbers and very good GST collections. And after the auto sales numbers, we had a dream run by Mahindra&Mahindra. We had the Scorpio N, which registered record sales numbers in less than half an hour's time. So I think the sentiment was really boosted in the autos.
I think adding to that, even the Grand Vitara from Maruti Suzuki,
Yes.
they also garnered a
Yes.
1 lakh booking.
Very true.
I think the Scorpio and Grand Vitara are I think they would lead how the automobile industry is being shaping up in
Yes.
the future.
So, very true. I think Tata Motors, Maruti, and Mahindra&Mahindra, they were the star performers as far as the auto sector were concerned. All these companies have been enjoying a dream run. But the more important part is the outlook. We are beginning. July is generally supposed to be a lean month as far as automobile sales are concerned. But come August, and we'll be seeing the start of the festival season, where we'll be having about 100 days of festivals. And as you know, Indians are very possessive, or they are very proud of privileged to have their own vehicles. What we call as the Vahan Sukh. So the privilege of owning a vehicle. So I think during the auspicious period, there is generally a very good demand for automobiles, two-wheelers in the rural economy, etc. So we really expect things to pep up or improve going forward for the auto sector. In fact, this would be a very, very key monitorable as far as the auto sector is concerned.
Yes, I think with monsoons also being in place,
Yes.
The two-wheeler rural economy would also see a very good spurt, I feel.
And of course, there are certain events like the marriage season is there. During the marriage season, there are certain markets like the northern markets where we generally tend to see a very good performance of the two-wheeler
Yes.
segment. Interestingly, in this particular context, I would like to quote one tweet by one Mr. C. Ashok Kumar, who has bought XUV 700 of Mahindra&Mahindra. And he has tagged Mr. Anand Mahindra by saying that he's bought this car after 10 years of hard work, and he has sought the blessings of Anand Mahindra. And Mr. Anand Mahindra has replied back by saying that it is you who has blessed us with your choice of this company. So the point we are trying to make over here is that such humble and encouraging words from the chairman of Mahindra&Mahindra, it just shows that this company is definitely going to go places with this kind of attitude. So I think makes India proud, and definitely proud ownership of vehicles is the point which we are trying to drive home. Secondly, coming to the FMCG sector, I think the FMCG sector has also shown a lot of resilience. Introduction of bridge packs, shrinkflation, and now with the input prices beginning to tame a bit, there's going to be a lag effect, but I think it's going to reflect in the numbers going forward. Rural demand is likely to be good because the monsoons have been reasonably good, and the urban demand continues to be quite resilient and strong. So we're likely to see good performance from the FMCG sector as well. Third is the cement sector. I think the cement sector generally tends to see a very good action and activity in the month of May, where there is the pre-monsoon construction activity which tends to gather pace. And after a good monsoon, I think we are likely to see a resurgence in the rural demand. The rural demand is likely to make a comeback.
Yes, I think the cement stocks are also really beaten down.
Yes.
So there will be some kind of.
And one more important factor is Ultratech Cement was one of the biggest gainers
Correct.
of the last week, and so I think the outlook is definitely going to improve as far as the cement sector is concerned. In fact, with the pickup in the construction activity, we anticipate that cement demand as well as the steel demand is likely to pick up and make a comeback in the next few months. So
I think they are going to outperform in the coming few months.
Yes.
It's
And
a must-have.
the broad consumption theme remains quite resilient, whether it is a Titan, or whether it is an Asian Paints, or whether it is a Kajaria Ceramics. And in this particular context, we would like to point out some companies which, mid-cap companies. One is Prism Johnson. It's a truly integrated building materials company where you have a mixture of cement, you have a mixture of tiles, vitrified tiles, as well as RMC, that is a ready mix concrete. So all these things packaged together very well, available at very attractive valuations. There are a lot of such stories which we'll try to throw light on in the future going forward. And finally, coming to the IT sector, the IT sector has performed quite reasonably well. I think the large cap IT stocks are on the comeback trail. So watch out for Infosys, watch out for TCS, Wipro, HCL Technologies. These stocks could really perform well. And pharma has been quite a quiet sector as far as overall performance is concerned. And finally, wrapping it up with metals, I think metals are also trying to make a comeback with improvement in infrastructure activity, etc. One can definitely expect the steel demand to come up in a big way. Lots of other stories, but time constraints, of course, definitely they are a restraint for us. Do write back to us with your feedback. Do revert to us with your feedback on how we can make improvements to this program, and do let us know your feedback. So I think that's about all for this week. We wrap up this session, the weekly wrap of LM Securities. Thank you everybody.
Thank you so
and
much.
have a great week.
Great evening.
Yeah. Thank you.